Episode 8 of HBO's We Are Who We Are was titled Right Here, Right Now, number 8 and last. Season finale. In honor of her last day in Italy, Caitlin and Fraser sneak off to catch a concert in Bologna. Along the way, Fraser finally feels comfortable admitting a shocking secret about Mark and finds a new friend in Luca before he and Caitlin spend their final moments together in the most beautiful place on earth. Hey, what's going on, everybody, and welcome back to my channel, Movie Files. Elliot back again with my final recap, review, and breakdown of the season finale of We Are Who We Are. So excited to let you all know what I thought about this episode, the season as a whole, and we're going to break it all down in the spoiler discussion. But before we dive into the details, as you can see on the screen now, make sure you're following me on all my other social media accounts. That way you can stay up to date on what's going on over here at Movie Files. If you are new to the channel, welcome to the community. Make sure you subscribe, and while you're at it, hit that bell so you don't miss any of my other HBO reviews, other TV reviews, movie reviews, live streams, all the fun things we do on this very channel. It would mean the world to me if you all can give this video a thumbs up. It helps out the channel, but also really appreciate it. And in the comments, let's discuss this finale. What did you all think about the story? What did you think about the ending of Caitlin and Fraser ending up in the most beautiful place on earth? And then also just your overall thoughts on the season. Would you want to see this is a mini limited series, but who knows what the future holds? Would you like to see more of this story, or would you like to see Luca tackle another subject matter on an HBO platform? Let's discuss that in the comments below. So before I get into the recap, my breakdown review, first and foremost, I want to thank you for tuning in these last 8 weeks, for watching this reviews, these breakdowns, these recaps. I've had such great conversation with you all in the comments. It's been a fun journey watching the show. And it doesn't end here. I do cover some other shows on this channel. Right now, I'm currently watching Fargo Season 4, so check that out every Tuesday. Every Friday, we got The Mandalorian Season 2. And every Sunday on HBO, we have a new drama series by The Undoing with Nicole Kidman and Hugh Grant. So that's every single Sunday. Check those out. But again, thank you for tuning in every single Monday night watching these reviews. And I've had such a great time being your host talking about this show. So thank you first and foremost. So let's get into before I get into the recap, overall thoughts. I'll dive deeper into it at the end of this video when I wrap up my review, but the episode had its moments. I really enjoyed Caitlin and Fraser. I mean, that's the through line, right? Throughout the entire series, we've met these different characters that don't get like a payoff, but, their journey of meeting Caitlin and Fraser meeting each other at this point in their lives were so important for them, right? And we'll talk about that in the review here, but I think as an episode goes, I enjoyed the episode. As a season finale tying to the 7 previous episodes of not having a conclusion, or at least for me, a satisfying conclusion for some of the other secondary supporting characters, other storylines I thought were integral, didn't really fit the traditional season finale. And again, we'll talk about that at the end, but just overall, I enjoyed Caitlin and Fraser's journey. So let's get into this recap, starting off with Caitlin on her father's boat, staring off in the sky as we see this montage of everyday life for what's going on the base. As we notice throughout this montage, it's Christmas time. So with it being Christmas, we can obviously, calculate the time that's passed between season or episode 7 to episode 8. It's been over a month. Last episode was in Thanksgiving when we obviously found out about Craig. So it's been a month since Craig's death. It's been a month since, Sarah and Maggie had the conversation about Richard leaving the base, and so on and so forth. So we do get a sense of how much time has passed from the last episode to this week's finale. So as we transition from that montage, we go to Caitlin's house, where we see a conversation being had between Jenny, Richard, and also Danny. As we kind of hear, as Caitlin's going through the house, you can hear them in the background talking about they're moving to Chicago, but they don't expect to stay there that long. They actually plan on going to a base in Japan. And in this conversation, you hear Danny talking about how he doesn't want to do this, and this isn't a part of his life, which again goes back to my overall thoughts of this finale tying into the other 7 episodes. The Danny storyline doesn't really go anywhere, but we'll talk about that at the end. But nonetheless, we find out that they're going to move. So that means that everything that happened last week with Sarah and Maggie's conversation, that indeed they did get Richard off to a new base. So we see Caitlin in her room listen to the song Oh by Young Ma, who happens to be an openly gay rapper. We see Brittany makes a move on Caitlin. This is an interesting moment, just not for the scene, but just for the character Brittany, who, again, we'll leave it to the end, but there were some characters I think were just flat at the end of the day. I don't understand Brittany's motive. So if we go back to a couple episodes ago where Brittany sees Caitlin and Sam as they go off in the room, Sam kisses her, he admits that he only loves her. I'm thinking in my head, is this Caitlin secretly having like kind of a revenge towards Sam and Caitlyn, because she literally says the same thing to Caitlyn as Sam said to Caitlyn 2 weeks ago, which is, it's always been you. I'll only love you. So I'm really confused by that move to kiss her as she, she's blowing smoke in her mouth. They kiss each other and they embrace each other. And then, Caitlyn, she's asked by Brittany, do you like me? He said, yeah, I like you as a friend, but that's about it. And they say their goodbyes. But that scene was just a little weird to me, man. Again, I don't understand where. I think it plays into the fact that, and this will go into my overall thoughts at the end, but just the character development just didn't make sense in that moment for me. I don't understand where Brittany's coming from, because again, we go to them being best friends at the beginning of the season, to Brittany, now making Sam her boyfriend. They have this moment where Sam goes back to Caitlyn. It's just like that moment to me just didn't feel organic enough to the story that we've gotten so far. But let me know what you all thought about Brittany kissing Caitlyn, and if I'm just looking into it too much, let me know your pros and cons of that moment. Let's just have a discussion about it in the comments below. So we see Caitlyn is waking up by her phone. As we see, she gets an alert from a calendar alert saying that she will be attending the Blood Orange concert, and we see that Fraser is reaching out to her as well. She seems to be somewhat ignoring him. Now, I'm thinking in my head, are they not friends anymore after this month? Because the last time we saw them on screen together, they were on Skype, falling asleep to each other, kind of just them being close friends, being there for each other. But no, I think it was just a matter of just like, Caitlyn's kind of realizing, this is my last day in Italy. This is my last time with Fraser. So I think that's what that scene might have meant versus them having like beef or she not wanting to go to this concert. But I was pretty excited to see Blood Orange, because since episode 6, where we got that kind of recreation of that song and that music video they recreated, I'm a big fan of that song now, so I was really excited to see him make his appearance on this season finale. So as we see Caitlyn and Fraser are preparing to go to the concert, they catch the train. They're practicing the song to see Blood Orange perform. But we also see a moment where Caitlyn goes to the restroom. She's, making sure that she's, getting ready to become Harper. And this was an interesting scene here. We see them having a conversation as Caitlyn asks Fraser, do you like me as a boy? He simply responds, I don't know. Are you still you? Which is, again, goes into the title of this show, right? We are who we are. You can put on makeup. You can do whatever you want to do to make you feel comfortable. But at the end of the day, it's who you are inside, right? And I think that was a quick scene, but it kind of goes into their relationship. And again, how important this relationship is to Fraser, to Caitlyn, to be 14 years old, a very important part of their teenage lives. And it's their most important time of them figuring out who they are as a people, as a person, I should say, as people on earth, as they figure out their sexuality. And I think that line just really kind of plays into this idea of, again, you can do whatever you want to do to make yourself feel comfortable, but as long as you are who you are inside, it doesn't matter what you wear, because it's the person inside that kind of shines out to the outside when you meet people and have interactions with them. So as we kind of move forward, they finally make it to Bologna, and after weeks of wondering what's the deal with Fraser and his mom, Sarah, we don't get like a definitive answer of why he slaps her or grabs her by the head and why they have this kind of weird dynamic. But there is this scene that plays out where Fraser pretty much tells Caitlyn that whenever he comes around getting this new kind of best friend, the attention is taken away from him because of Sarah interfering with their relationship, right? And he feels like she did that with their dad. Even though he passed away, he felt like that would have happened with them. That's obviously happening with Caitlyn. And then the conversation comes out about Mark. So we see within this conversation, Caitlyn asks about Mark, and this is where Fraser tells Caitlyn that Mark doesn't exist. Now, I believe in his story that he said when he was in New York that there was a boy that he did have feelings for, but he never had the nerve, as he says, to go up to speak to him. So he made this kind of narrative in his head about this Mark character, this person that he had feelings for, but he just couldn't muster up the confidence to speak to them, which plays into what happens in this episode where, he finally kisses a boy. Luca, the kid that he meets, becomes best friends with over this kind of concert scene that we get there. But, it was a very interesting reveal. We all talked about it for weeks. Is Mark dead? Is Mark, going to make an appearance? But we find out that Mark is just a manifestation of what, was created in the head of Fraser not being able to speak to this boy that he had a crush on. So a very big moment, we find out who Mark was. Really kind of cool moment for me within this next scene. We see, as Fraser tells the reveal about Mark, Caitlyn, pretty much says that, I don't exist, Harper doesn't exist, you don't exist, Mark doesn't exist. Again, I think this episode really kind of plays on the fact that these two kids at the age of 14 have found each other at the most vulnerable times in their life, and they are there for each other. There's been a lot of ups, there's been a lot of downs, there's been deaths on this season with Craig, there's been some friction in the different families, but they're in the moment, right? All that stuff that just happened this past 7 weeks for us as the audience member has led to this, right? They are in Bologna, going to a concert for an artist that they love. They're sharing secrets with each other. They're telling each other how they feel, and it's just they're in the moment, which is something I think we can all relate to. It's just we all have our dramas, we all have our personal things in life, but we can just be in the moment and appreciate who that person is, whether it's a best friend, whether it's a brother or sister, cousin, whatever the case may be. I just love that they're in the moment within this scene. So as we kind of move forward, they find some hitchhikers to take them to the concert, and we see Fraser becomes best friends with this kid who seems to love the same things that he does, which kind of made me a little upset within the scene because this was supposed to be the last hurrah between Caitlin and Fraser, but Fraser befriends, like literally he becomes best friends with this kid just from the conversations that they have in the car, and he kind of puts Caitlin aside, which I was kind of bothered by from not only, a fan of their friendship and their relationship, but just like storytelling wise. It's like we just had this nice moment just the last scene ago of them embracing each other and not caring what's going on, just being in the moment, and then literally he finds a new friend and completely ignores her. I don't know if that plays into the characteristics of Fraser. Again, we know he has such a high and low as far as the emotional spectrum, but I was not a fan of him just automatically befriending this new kid and just putting his best friend at the moment to the side. Let me know what you all thought about that moment in the comments below. We finally get to the concert. We see Blood Orange perform, which again, I don't know if you all know, but Blood Orange was the composer and he scored the season. And I've actually listened to the soundtrack. Again, the score, Lucas movies and this show in particular has a great score and it's a character within itself. But it was really cool to kind of see Blood Orange finally perform because I'm not too familiar with the artist, but in the last few weeks or so, I'm listening to a couple of his songs. He's a pretty dope artist, but I love that he finally made an appearance in the show because again, he was responsible for some of the most beautiful music in this show. We see in this scene of the concert as Fraser is ignoring Caitlin that Caitlin is flirting with the bartender, which is very interesting because again, this goes into just something that comes in my mind when it comes to these are 14-year-old kids. Again, I know this is art. These are artists. They're not 14 years old in real life, but in the show, this is a 14-year-old Caitlin that's flirting with, I assume, is an adult. I don't know how old the bartender was. I think about what happened with Jonathan and Fraser. Jonathan's 30 and Fraser was 14. So I don't know. I don't know how you all felt about the bartender flirting with Harper at that moment, but nonetheless, we see that she is indeed flirting with her, and they kind of give each other some eye looks and see everything kind of play out there. But I thought this was a really nice moment where the bartender takes Caitlin to meet Devs from Blood Orange and has a selfie, and he asks what the favorite song is, which of course it's Time Will Tell. And I like this moment because she sends Fraser a selfie, kind of showing that she just took a picture with their favorite artist, and Fraser kind of freaks out, geeks out about it, and he can't find where she is, but Caitlin goes back into the back room, and as the song plays, by the way, which I loved, I thought that they weren't going to play the song, which was beautiful within the show, but Caitlin goes back to the kind of green room, and again, this is where I said I don't know how old that bartender is, and she makes out with Caitlin, but ultimately very similar to what Fraser did last week. She's uncomfortable with the situation, right? She's still kind of confused on how she feels about being Caitlin, how she feels about being Harper. We see that she goes to the bathroom. She takes off her makeup. I believe she was crying because the scene did kind of flip upside down, but I believe she was kind of emotional within that scene. And like I said, we see her wash her beard off, and she tells Fraser via text that she wants to go. It's time to go. Fraser's like, oh, just give me a minute. But she ultimately goes to the train station because, again, this is just a very confusing moment for her right now. So as we kind of move forward, we see Fraser as going to the most beautiful place in the world, which I believe is the sanctuary of Madonna San Luca. He goes there with his friend. Fraser makes out with the boy. Now, this is an interesting moment. The boy, Fraser asks the boy, hey, do you like kissing boys? And he said, no, this is my first time. I didn't really like it. I think he says something about tongue or whatever, but it was still nice from a character moment to see Fraser kind of make that move. We saw what happened last week with Jonathan. Things didn't play out the way that he wanted it to. He didn't really feel like it was, I guess, a controlled situation, or things didn't, like I said, play out how he would imagine the first time maybe kissing Jonathan. But he kisses this new friend that he finds that loves the same things that he loves. And even though things didn't necessarily play out, he said he didn't really like kissing a boy for the first time. It was still nice to see Fraser stepping up and having the confidence, and the whole Mark situation is now kind of put behind him, and now he can kind of be himself now, which I think is a beautiful way to kind of tell that story there. So we see that Fraser is running 45 minutes to get to Caitlin. He meets her at the train station. He convinces her to get off the train. They go back to the sanctuary. They have a kiss, which I don't think was sexual or by any means. I think it was just them embracing each other again, being in the moment. It was nice to see that moment, because again, back to episode 2 or 3 where they promised to never kiss each other. Well, they broke that promise. But again, I think it's just a matter of like them saying their goodbyes, them just appreciating each other for what they were in their lives during the most vulnerable time in their lives of them being 14 years old. But wrapping this thing up, man, I thought that the episode had some really beautiful moments. Again, them embracing each other, them saying that it doesn't matter if Mark exists, it doesn't matter if Harper exists. We exist of who we are, right? We are who we are. Very similar to the idea of this show. So, Caitlin and Fraser, very good story. As my overall thoughts on the finale, I enjoyed it for what it was. But then going into my criticisms with the finale, the Brittany thing came out of left field. Fraser kind of putting, Caitlin on the back burner to now kind of follow his heart, I thought was just could have been handled a little bit differently. But nonetheless, I still kind of like the final shot with them two running off in this sanctuary and the most beautiful place on the earth as they're sharing each other within this moment. So going into my thoughts on the season, it was an interesting journey. Very unorthodox storytelling methods. Like, we got a lot of character development off screen. We had a lot of time go by without really addressing things that happened. We went months, weeks ahead of time, not seeing certain character development, not seeing Fraser getting implemented into the group of friends, not seeing a lot of things happen behind the scenes between Sarah and Maggie, which brings me into the characters. Besides our main characters, Caitlin and Fraser, when it comes down to it, the resolution of Sarah and Maggie, is this something that they do on a regular basis? Like I mentioned in my review last week, do they go to these different military bases and have this kind of ruse where Maggie has, sexual affairs with someone that might be going against Sarah? We never really got that resolution. I kind of feel cheated with the Danny character. I thought that him studying Islam and him embracing his religion, his culture, really didn't have a great payoff for me. The whole thing with Valentina, like, were they having an affair where Craig was alive? Was it just when he went off to the Iraq? That didn't really have a good playoff. And then honestly, when I come to think of it, characters like Sam, Brittany, Valentina, all those characters ultimately were just kind of flat, if I'm being honest. Some of the performances weren't really strong when I think about it as a whole, and it's just like they just happened to be there, more or less. And I think that's kind of the story that Luca was trying to tell, just a slice of life and just people that you interact with that you might not get the most backstory with, because that's not this story, right? It's not their story. But it is kind of unfortunate that we didn't get a satisfying conclusion for those characters. But nonetheless, these last 8 weeks, again, has been great because I've been talking to you all. I thought that there was some beautiful cinematography, some beautiful, musical throughout the show. There were some good performances. There wasn't really a standout performance for me. I think that, of course, Jack Dylan Grazer and Sarah and Mag, I thought they were great, acting. They did the best they can with the material, but I don't think the show really relied on like Emmy type of performances. But I wish that, again, those supporting characters had a little bit more of a satisfying conclusion. So let me know your thoughts on this season finale, this show as a whole. Would you like to see a continuation of this series? Again, it's a limited mini-series. Luca's a very busy man, from potentially 2 sequels in the works with Suspiria 2, Call Me By Your Name 2, and then he's doing the remake for Scarface. Jack Dylan Grazer's doing Shazam 2. So there's some busy people. I don't know if we'll get any more of this story continuing. Like Fraser, he goes goes back to the base and everything that plays out there, or, you know, Caitlyn goes to Chicago. Who knows? There could be more, but I doubt that we'll get any more from this particular show. But let me know if you guys would like to see that. But again, guys, thank you for tuning in every single week. Check out my other reviews that are currently on my channel, movie reviews, TV reviews. Continue to watch my content on, again, every Tuesday, Fargo Season 4, every Friday, Mandalorian Season 2, every Sunday, The Undoing, and many more things to come. Hope you guys enjoyed this review. Hope you're staying safe, and we'll see you all on the next video.